Good morning. You're listening to the Brief Wake Up, your mindful start to the day. I am Handel, your daily coffee companion, helping you wake up informed, thoughtful, and maybe just a little amused before the day gets old. If you're commuting, corralling kids, or just standing in line for caffeine, you're in the right place. Let's get you caught up. This morning on health, as I begin another grueling training preparing for a marathon. Let's talk about information wearables provide us with and how they help us. The first is heart rate variability, or HRV. It's a number your wearable tracks daily, yet one of the most misunderstood signals in personal health. Heart rate variability, or HRV, is one of the most misunderstood metrics on wearables. At first glance, it sounds technical, but what it measures is simple: the variation in time between your heartbeats. A healthy heart doesn't beat like a metronome. It speeds up, it slows down, it adapts. HRV reflects how flexible your nervous system is, specifically, the balance between stress and recovery. When HRV is higher, your body has more capacity to respond to challenges. When it's lower, your system is under strain. This isn't about heart disease risk in the moment, it's about resilience. HRV is heavily influenced by the autonomic nervous system. Sleep, illness, alcohol, psychological stress, overtraining, all of these can lower it. Rest, recovery, consistent routines, and emotional regulation tend to raise it over time. That's why HRV often drops before you feel sick, or after a hard workout, or during periods of sustained stress. It's an early signal, not a diagnosis. One common mistake is comparing HRV to other people. That's not how it works. HRV is highly individual. What matters is your baseline and your trend. A low HRV for you can be perfectly normal. A sudden drop from your usual range is what's informative. Another mistake is chasing HRV day to day. One bad night doesn't mean something's wrong, and one high reading doesn't mean you're invincible. HRV works best when you zoom out. Over weeks and months, it can teach you how your body responds to sleep consistency, training load, stress, alcohol, and illness. Used well, HRV becomes a guide, not a score. It can help you decide when to push and when to recover, when to train hard and when to step back, when your body is coping and when it's asking for support. But HRV isn't a command. It's a conversation. It doesn't tell you what to do. It gives you information so you can make better choices. And when people stop treating HRV as a judgment and start treating it as feedback, that's when it becomes one of the most useful signals wearables have to offer. Not a verdict on your health, but a window into how your nervous system is really doing. Tomorrow, we'll build on this by talking about VO2 max, what it measures, why it matters for long-term health, and how wearables estimate it. The news is next. In the news, speaking of marathon training, Mamdani starts the marathon that is running the most influential city in the world, as he formally takes office in his current term, stepping into the role with heightened visibility and expectations. Mamdani, a democratic socialist and longtime advocate for housing reform and labor protections, enters office amid growing pressure on state leaders to address affordability, transit reliability, and widening economic gaps across New York. Supporters view his rise as part of a broader generational and ideological shift, one that prioritizes tenant rights, expanded public services, and a more confrontational stance toward entrenched corporate interests. Critics, however, argue that translating movement-driven politics into durable policy remains a challenge, particularly within Albany's complex budget process and layered political alliances. As Mamdani begins this term, attention will focus not only on the bills he introduces, but on how effectively he navigates governance, coalition building, and compromise. The often less visible work of turning ideas into law. This moment is less about ceremony and more about trajectory. Whether a new political style can sustain momentum once inside the system, it aims to change. Across the pond, authorities in Switzerland are continuing investigations into a devastating fire that has left approximately 40 people dead, making it one of the country's deadliest incidents in recent years. Emergency services report that the fire spread rapidly, overwhelming occupants before a full evacuation could be completed. Recovery operations and forensic assessments are still underway, and officials have not yet released a definitive cause. Swiss authorities have emphasized support for victims' families, while also launching a comprehensive review of safety protocols, building conditions, and emergency response timelines. The tragedy has prompted nationwide reflection in a country known for strict safety standards and robust infrastructure oversight, raising questions about how such a large-scale loss could occur. As details emerge, officials say the focus will remain on accountability, transparency, and preventing similar incidents in the future. For now, the fire stands as a stark reminder that even in highly regulated environments, disaster risk is never fully eliminated, and vigilance remains essential. Tech and culture is next. This morning in Tech and Culture, we are starting a series on music. Not as entertainment, not as an industry, but as biology. Why does music matter so much to us? Why does it feel less like something we listen to and more like something that lives inside? I will take you through how music integrates biology, psychology, and memory to become the soundtrack of our lives. Before humans had language, we had rhythm. Not metaphorically, biologically. The human nervous system is rhythmic by design. Heartbeat, breathing, gait, circadian cycles. These oscillations are regulated by brainstem and subcortical structures that long predate speech. Sound reached us before syntax ever could. Anthropological and neurological evidence suggests that coordinated vocalization and rhythmic movement emerged before structured language, likely as tools for group synchronization, such as hunting, migration, bonding, warning, and mourning. In 2009, neuroscientist Anirudh Patel synthesized evidence showing that musical rhythm and vocal timing rely on neural systems that overlap with, but evolutionarily precede, language circuitry. Music didn't evolve as entertainment, it evolved as coordination. When you hear music, your brain does not process it the way it processes language or facts. It does not root first through semantic interpretation. Instead, auditory input couples directly to the limbic system, which governs emotion and memory, the motor cortex and cerebellum, which handle timing and movement, the dopaminergic reward system, which evolved to reinforce survival-relevant behavior. This is measurable. In a landmark 2011 study, Salampur demonstrated that music triggers dopamine release in the brain's reward centers before emotional peaks occur, during anticipation, not just pleasure. Music changes heart rate variability. It modulates cortisol. It entrains breathing. It synchronizes neural firing across listeners. That's why your foot taps before you decide to move. Why tension builds before a chorus. Why release feels physical, not intellectual. Your brain is predicting rhythm, not decoding meaning. Music is not processed as information. It is processed as physiological state. Long before humans spoke in sentences, we had to act together, to move together, to remain calm together, to survive together. Rhythm aligned nervous systems. It reduced uncertainty. It regulated fear. In evolutionary terms, music was not art. It was infrastructure, a nonverbal system for synchronizing bodies and emotions at scale. That distinction matters because modern technology often treats music as preference, as taste, as background. But music's power does not live in taste, it lives in biology. Computational systems can model harmony, they can reproduce structure, they can imitate style, but they do not experience anticipation, they do not feel tension, they do not require release. Because music's power is not computational, it is embodied. That's why you reach for music under stress, why you need it to train, why silence feels uncomfortable during transition. You are not entertaining yourself. You are regulating your nervous system. Music does not tell you what to think. It tells your body how to feel. And that is why it has always been with us, from the first heartbeat, through every step and breath, all the way to the last song. Tomorrow, we discuss how music binds emotions to memory so well. The lighter roast is next. Let's talk about friendship. Friendship is one of the strangest and most important things humans do. It's the only relationship where you're not related by blood, not bound by law, not obligated by contract, and yet you choose it anyway. Every time. Friendship starts casually. A shared class, a job, a gym or a neighborhood. And somehow, without paperwork or ceremony, someone becomes your person. What makes friendship special isn't loyalty during the good times. It's presence during the unremarkable ones. Friends are the people who sit with you while nothing is happening. They don't need a reason to be there. They just are. They know the version of you that doesn't perform. The one who complains. The one who repeats stories. The one who's tired, unsure, halfway formed. And they stay. Friendships also run on a different kind of economy. There's no scorecard, no invoices, no constant accounting. Some days you give more. Some days you take more. Over time, it balances, not mathematically, but emotionally. Friends remember who you were before the world shaped you. They hold earlier versions of you with care. They remind you of things you forgot about yourself. They laugh at jokes that aren't that funny anymore because the memory attached to them still is. And unlike many relationships, friendships allow space. You can disappear for months, reappear with no explanation, and pick up mid-sentence. That kind of grace is underrated. Friendship doesn't demand constant progress. It allows pauses. In a world obsessed with productivity and optimization, friendship has no goal other than connection. It doesn't need to lead anywhere. It just needs to exist. And maybe that's why it matters so much. Because friendship proves that not everything meaningful has to be efficient, or strategic, or useful. Some things are valuable simply because they remind us that we're not alone, and never were. That's not a small thing. That's everything. The commemoration is next. Today is January 2nd, a day that quietly connects imagination, identity, and follow-through. It's National Science Fiction Day, observed on the birthday of Isaac Asimov, a writer who used imagined futures to ask very real questions about technology, ethics, and responsibility. Science fiction at its best isn't about predicting tomorrow. It's about preparing us to think clearly about it. January 2nd also marks a pivotal moment in American history. On this day in 1959, Alaska became the 49th state, reshaping the nation's geography and reminding us how place, scale, and resilience shape who we are. And beyond history and imagination, January 2nd carries a quieter meaning. It's often the first true working day of the year, when resolutions stop being ideas and start becoming actions. No countdowns, no spotlight, just the work of continuing. January 2nd reminds us that progress doesn't usually begin with spectacle. It begins with showing up and moving forward, one ordinary day at a time. Today was about signals from our bodies, from our culture, and from the quieter moments that shape who we become. Whether it's listening to HRV instead of chasing numbers, hearing music as biology instead of background, or valuing friendship for its simple presence, the message is the same. Meaning exists beneath the surface. January 2nd reminds us that progress doesn't start with spectacle. It starts with awareness, continuity, and showing up again tomorrow. This is Handel for the brief wake up. Welcome to the new year. We are still staying calm, kind, and curious, but in a Kaizen kind of way. Catch you tomorrow.